We're back with John Dean, former CEO of Silicon Valley Bank, who took their market cap from $63 million to over $3 billion. Forbes magazine named him as one of the 50 most powerful deal makers.
When you initially were sent in to turn around these banks, the morale, I'm going to assume, was pretty low. Is that correct?
Or lower.
Oh, yeah. So what do you do in that circumstance? What are the first things that you do? How do you strategize this? And what do you do in that situation?
I'll give you, if I may give you an example, it'll go for a couple minutes. In Oklahoma, at the time, the First National Bank of Oklahoma City failed. It was in 1986. It was the second largest bank failure at the time. First Interstate Bank acquired certain assets and liabilities, and it was my responsibility to go out and to turn the organization around. When I went out, we were hemorrhaging losses. A ratio used in banking is the efficiency ratio. What does it cost to make $1 of revenue? So if it costs 85 cents to make $1 of revenue, your ratio is 85 or 85%. So best run banks are in the 40s or 50s. Poor run banks are in the 80s, some in the 90s. And so my ratio was 115. Yeah, so it was, besides that, we had massive layoffs before we got there. Most of the employees' retirement plan was in the company stock, which had gone bankrupt. It failed. So they had lost their life savings. Those that had remained, titles had been cut and salaries cut. So they're demoralized. Geez, there's a lot of things we did. Mine was trying to spend the first 2 or 3 weeks just trying to visit with every single employee at every level that I could, either in groups or one-on-one, and listen. And I'll tell you a quick story. Bob Huffman was one of the officers of the bank, and what we did early on was to put a group of employees together, officers of the bank, to come up with what do we want our core values to be. Let's come together. And what do you want from this organization apart from just making money? And they came up with a commitment to the community and respect for all employees and trust. Those were so key to them because they lost most of that. And Bob led the team that came up with our core values. Sad thing was that Bob, about 3 months after this, came down with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, terrible disease that would basically in 2 years he'd go from lost the ability to walk, lost the ability to talk, and eventually took his life. We adopted Bob in the bank, and if you could see employees coming together for Bob Huffman, I think he was the only officer of a bank in the United States for his company car. It was a van with a lift in the back for his wheelchair that we got him. You'd say, well, what's that got to do with profitability? And I'd tell you, maybe nothing. But in 2 years, we went from a failed institution to the most profitable bank in the state. And I'd argue our commitment to him, but to all employees, in the communication we can do it together, is what drove that turnaround. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it, Carrie.
It sounds like building a relationship, whether it's a marriage, boyfriend and girlfriend, or a friendship, I mean, it all follows even in the employer and employee relationship as well. It's all about relationships. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yes. And I think 20, 30 years ago we tried to differentiate, those relationships or those things stayed at home. I'd argue not that you permit anything at the office, but to understand that people do have emotions and that those relationships of trust among employees and the reporting relationship, ethics, values are critical to the success of a relationship at home, and they're critical to the long-term success of a company.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.